This is a horror video. For a better experience, use earphones when you watch this horror story. I was tasked with cleaning my grandmother's house after her passing. My parents having become estranged from her years before I was born, my mother having been her only child, and her own siblings passing away many years ago. I was the one to volunteer to do the process. My own contact with my grandmother had been limited, but nice. My parents permitting her to see me once when I was born and allowing letters to be exchanged between us. They were your standard, speaking to a relative you know little about kind of letters, short, courteous, and surface level. Despite this, I had a sort of fondness for this woman I'd never truly met. My parents refused to speak much of her, so cleaning the house had become an opportunity to get to know her. The house itself was nothing remarkable. A comfortable one-story home similar to those in the surrounding area. Located in a small retirement town, filled mostly with old folk and occasionally small families wishing to take advantage of the cheap house prices. It was a fine area, if not a tad bit boring. Quiet and unassuming, just like the house from the outside. Entering was a different story. It soon became apparent my grandmother was a hoarder. Piles and piles of stuff lining every wall. A twisting, turning path between the items, the only way it seemed one could get around the place. No wonder why my folks had declined to come with me. I'd taken some time walking around the small home before I decided to start cleaning, trying to grasp a lay of the land and the easiest way to begin the process of sorting all of the hoard. Doing this, however, led me to a room that had been locked. A room I hadn't been informed of when the lawyer had given me the house keys. I pulled them out, flipping through them, trying them all out on the door. One finally shoved into the lock, clicked when I turned it. I was in. The room seemed completely different to the rest of the house. For one, there were no signs of hoarding. Instead, it was as neat as it could be, despite there being a thick layer of dust across every surface. It clearly hadn't been touched since it was last used, which, considering as this was obviously my mother's old bedroom, wouldn't have been since the 60s. She had left home at 16. It was one of the few things she'd told me about her past. This made the discovery of the room even more exciting to me. Finally, I could learn more about my grandmother and my mother. The mystery of our family would begin to unravel in this room. Most of the room was fairly uninteresting. A few Barbie dolls I made a mental note to Google to see if they were worth anything, as well as some clothes and some old records that caught my eye. Wait till I showed my friends the old The Mums and the Puppers and the Yardbirds album I'd found. The thing that caught my attention the most, however, was a plain-looking journal with weathered yellow pages. I immediately grabbed it and shoved it in my coat pocket, filing it away for later inspection. I had to actually start cleaning if I wanted to get anywhere in this massive hoard. And that brings me to today. A free day off from working and cleaning. I actually decided to sit down and read what was in this journal. I think I regret it. Well, no, actually I don't. It explained a lot. Why my mother had left, why she was only permitted to see me once, why my family secrets were kept hush-hush. My grandmother was a murderer. Instead of me explaining the story, I'll let my mother's own words do the talking. For brevity, I will omit entries that don't have much to do with the secret. January 15th, 1965. Dear Diary, Maurice came around again today. He's been checking up on me a lot lately. Ever since my father left. I suppose I appreciate it. Mother has not left the room since the incident, and I'm unable to look after little Mary on my own. She's so tiny. I wonder if I was that small as a baby. Poor thing. Even looking at her, you can see the genes of the mailman. I should not know this, and you and Maurice are the only ones I've told, but Mother cheated on Father with the mailman. It is why he left, though Mother would not say a word about it to me. I mean, it makes sense. Who would want their own daughter knowing about their infidelity? I certainly would not. Maurice is talking of marriage. He says it is legal now if we obtain the court's approval. Then I can finally leave this wretched home of mine. Things were strained before Father left. Now I'm afraid of what will happen. Mother usually is not this bad. She has had episodes before when Father came home drunk late after work and they would argue, and then she would not speak for a couple of days. But it would always go away. Father would bring home flowers, they would kiss and make up. It's been 2 weeks since Mother spoke. She'll sometimes leave her room to eat and use the loo, but that is about it. I'm worried. School returns soon. What will happen when I leave little Mary home all day? Will Mother ever think to tend to her? I tense up at the thought. Write again soon. Anne. January 16th, 1965. Dear Diary, I saw something strange this morning. I got up in the middle of the night for a glass of water and decided to check on little Mary, as I oft do. She is the reason for my terrible sleep schedule, but oh well. Anyway, I went to check on her. She sleeps in what used to be Father's study and her makeshift bedroom, but I guess it's just her bedroom now. The door was slightly ajar. Usually I keep it fully shut, makes the room nice and warm for her. A trick Granny taught me. I peeped in. Something told me I should not make any sudden or loud noises when I did so. My gut instinct was probably correct. Mother was in there. She was standing over the cot, watching down at little Mary. She was dead still. If it was not for the faint moving of her stomach up and down, it would be as if she were dead on her feet. That was not the worst part of things, however. That was Mother's face. Her eyes were blank, but her mouth was twisted up into a grin. It looked so perverse. I'm truly scared. What's wrong with my mother? Write again soon. Anne. January 20th, 1965. Dear Diary, today I returned to school. I've been observing Mother every night for the past couple of days. She's been doing the exact same thing as I saw the morning of the 16th, standing and staring at little Mary. I told Maurice about my concerns. He hopes to start the procedure for us to marry soon. I will write again when I come home from school. Dear Diary, I write this in Maurice's car. I'm coming to live with him and his folks. The most terrible things has happened. Unfortunately, little Mary is dead. Mother has killed her. Oh, it was horrific. I had entered home from school. I was excited, actually. I could hear Mother whistling. She was in the kitchen rather than her room. I thought it would be good news. Oh, I had hoped it would be good news. She always whistled when she was feeling happy. Dear Lord, the scene that I walked into. When I close my eyes, I can still see it now. Mother with the knife she used for preparing large poultry. Mary on the chopping board. Her lifeless body was so pale, so limp. My mother has gone crazy. I could see the roasting dish behind her. And blood. So much blood. Blood all over my mother, staining the white skin of Mary. Her limbs. She had chopped her limbs. Oh God, dear Lord. I hate to think what is happening in my home. No, not my home. Never again my home. That house. That hell house. God, I cannot continue to think about it. This is truly it. I will not be writing in you again, diary. And that was it. My mother kept to her promise. She never wrote in the diary again, and from what little I've been told, her and Father married days after this. I suppose the court would approve of a marriage that took my mother far, far away from what happened. The red stains in my grandmother's kitchen make sense now.